Guys, if you're considering selling your home in the next year or so, before you spend $20, $50, $100,000 or more on some crazy renovation, there's a few things you should know. Now, some renovations can absolutely help homes sell faster, generate more interest, generate stronger offers, but that doesn't mean that every single potential renovation is worth doing. So in this video, I'm going to go over some of the biggest mistakes I see homeowners making before they are listing their homes, as well as some renovations to consider or some improvements to consider before going on the market, as well as some of the ones to stay away from that aren't necessarily going to put more money back in your pocket. Let's jump right into number one and talk about the full kitchen remodel. This is the place where I see a lot of homeowners starting, thinking that they need to blow up their entire kitchen before they go on the market. And I get it. The kitchen is an extremely important room. It can definitely be a selling point for a lot of buyers, and it's a place where a lot of people hang out a lot of the time in their own homes. That said, unless your kitchen is completely outdated or absolutely falling apart, it is very difficult to justify an entire kitchen remodel before going on the market. I have seen homeowners spend $50, $75, $100,000 on a full kitchen remodel. And does it help the home sell faster? Absolutely. Does it generate more buyer interest? Absolutely. Do they usually see a positive return on their investment? Usually, no. So instead of replacing absolutely everything in the kitchen, consider a few minor adjustments like these. First, fresh paint, then new cabinet hardware, updated lighting, professional cleaning, and minor repairs. Sometimes a few $1,000s can create 80% of the impact. One alternative that we have used with a lot of success is to help buyers visualize what a home could look like after a few improvements are done. And I'm not talking about staging exactly, although staging can be a great way to get a return on your investment. If people have the ability to do it, I always recommend it. But I'm talking more specifically about helping buyers visualize not just what new furniture might look like, but new paint colors, a new cabinet layout. So we're actually able to go in and help our homeowner clients visualize what a renovated kitchen might look like, and we can put those renderings in front of home buyers out there when we go to list the property on the market. So we've used this with great success when sellers know that the buyer is most likely going to want to renovate the kitchen, but maybe it's a family selling mom and dad's old home and nobody wants to deal with a full kitchen upgrade or the cost of a full kitchen upgrade. So we can go in and actually show buyers what a kitchen upgrade would look like, give them a more modern feel, still complement the character of the existing home, and just generate more interest. Of course, we're doing this alongside the actual listing photos when we go in there with a photographer, and we're putting these right next to the listing photos and showing them this is what the kitchen could look like if you were going to renovate it. This is what maybe blowing out a wall or two could look like if it was done by a professional contractor. And it just gives buyers a much better understanding of what the potential of this property is. Number two is the full bathroom renovation. So similar to a kitchen, this is another area where we're constantly seeing homeowners overspending, and it oftentimes is not necessary at all. Of course, a beautifully renovated kitchen can often get more money for the property, but usually you're not going to see your money back here. So instead, focus on things like recaulking, regrouting, fresh paint, updated mirrors, new fixtures, repairing anything that's actually broken, and also adding some interior design accents that complement what is already there in the bathroom. So clean and functional are going to beat expensive and unnecessary. The third mistake I see homeowners making right now is completely replacing a perfectly good flooring. You absolutely do not have to replace floors like hardwood floors with new flooring. Get the hardwood floors refinished if possible. If you have wall-to-wall carpeting, this is something that almost nobody wants to inherit from a former owner. So if you have existing wall-to-wall carpeting and it's not brand new, I would highly recommend getting that swapped out with something that's a little bit more modern and is still going to complement the space. But nobody wants to inherit wall-to-wall carpeting. So that's something to consider. If you do have hardwood floors, I always recommend sort of creating spaces and using or leveraging an interior designer or a great real estate agent will be able to point out which space might be able to use area rugs, whether it's a living room area in front of the TV or a runner in front of the kitchen sink, some tasteful runners or area rugs that are going to create a more cohesive look in the entire interior design of the space. They're always a good idea, and I see them used all the time in staging, virtual staging. Professional interior designers use area rugs all the time. It's just something that I always recommend that people use. The fourth mistake I see homeowners making is making some over-personalized improvements. Now, this is fairly common, and sellers are accidentally spending money almost on themselves more than they're spending money for the incoming buyers of the home. So unless you're going to be living in the property for another 5 or 10 years, try not to make over-personalized decisions about the design or permanent fixtures in the home. I'm talking about bold paint colors, really highly specific design elements, these pendant lights in the kitchen that are making the kitchen island look like a warming station, these front hallways that are made of old pennies that for some reason is a thing. You know, don't install a dedicated home theater because they haven't been used since Netflix came out. Remember, you're preparing the home for the marketplace. The more buyers that can actually picture themselves living there, the better. Neutral and non-polarizing are virtually always going to beat the bold and unique choices for the average single-family home. The fifth mistake I see homeowners making is these crazy extensive landscaping projects. So you absolutely do not need to spend 6 months to a year redesigning the entire exterior of your home before listing. Most buyers are looking for very simple things. So a maintained lawn, trimmed shrubs, fresh mulch, great curb appeal, and maybe some seasonal flowering plants out front. So simple, clean, and maintained is definitely going to outperform these crazy expensive projects from a return on investment standpoint. Now, because I have some landscape design experience as well as interior design or architectural design experience, one of the things that I love to do for homeowners is I'll go over to their property, snap a few pictures of the front and backyard, and give them some ideas for what some instant curb appeal could do for them. So draw up a couple of renderings where I've put a couple of shrubs in, maybe some perennial flowers, and just remulched the flower beds and give them an idea of what the property will look like if it is cleaned up for short money. And then we can hand that rendering off to a local landscape installer partner of mine, and they can knock it out in a day or two. And that way the seller hasn't spent tens of thousands of dollars completely renovating their exterior. It's still photo ready. It's still going to be ready to take these excellent listing photos and put a lot of curb appeal in front of the buyers out there. So they can either hand this off to the landscape installer or even do the installation themselves, run to Home Depot, get some shrubs, get some flowers, get some fresh mulch, and knock it out in a weekend themselves if they want to. So great way to save a lot of money, get a return on your investment, and still have the home looking great for photos. Since we're on the topic of exteriors and curb appeal, there is one more mistake that I want to slide into this section that I see home sellers, homeowners making before they list their properties. And it's usually just because they haven't thought this far ahead, and it's a completely understandable mistake to make. But what they're doing is basically a lot of homeowners are just waiting until the right property comes up that they want to make an offer on before they think about selling their current home. Now, work that logistically out with your real estate agent, but one thing that these people aren't thinking about is when they find the perfect property, let's say in October, now they have to go on the market with their current property in the ugliest possible months of the year, especially here in New England. So if you have to list a home in November, December, January, February, the outside of these properties just looks terrible and depressing. So I always recommend, if you can help it, if you have the yard, the front yard, the backyard looking great during May, June, July, August, get those exterior listing photos taken before you're even considering going on the market with your home. That way you have those ready to go. If you have to go on the market in the middle of the winter, these people can actually see what the beautiful exterior of your home looks like when it is warm and sunny, and you don't have to worry about listing the house with these atrocious wintertime exterior listing photos. So something I always highly recommend doing, even if you're not going to be selling for another 8 or 9 months, consider getting those listing photos taken now. And obviously you can call our team if you're in the greater Boston area, or reach out to your local real estate agent to get that done for you now. The sixth mistake I see owners making before listing their homes is replacing things just because they're old. So I see this all the time, from the roof to the furnace to the hot water heater. You know, they're saying, oh, this is 15 years old, that's 20 years old, they need to get it replaced. Just because a utility or the roof is just not brand new, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have useful life left in it. And generally speaking, home buyers, yes, they like to see new utilities, but generally they're more concerned with condition and functionality. So if you have utilities that are still in perfectly good working order, you've had them maintained over the years, there is really no reason to spend thousands of dollars replacing these things if they still have useful life left in them. The seventh mistake I see homeowners making before listing is just making these decisions before they speak to a real estate professional. So I've seen people spend tens of thousands of dollars on projects that probably weren't worthwhile. And I've seen people miss out on opportunities to make minor repairs that would have netted them a much higher return on investment. But every home is different, every homeowner is different, every market is different, every buyer pool is different. That's why your first call should not be to a contractor. It should be to someone that can actually illustrate some insight to you about how the market out there is responding to homes like yours, and how to align your expectations with what's actually happening in the market. So guys, if you are considering selling your home in the next year, or even if you're 2 years out and you want a better understanding of what's going to get you the highest return on your investment, feel free to reach out to our team if you're here in the greater Boston or South Shore, Massachusetts area. And even if you're not here in one of those markets, feel free to connect with us anyway. We have a network of agents all over the country who we're talking to every single week. That way we are always able to deliver for our clients who are coming in and out of Massachusetts. So feel free to connect with our team. We're happy to have that conversation with you. If you want to see some of these fun renderings of what a great additional curb appeal for your front and backyard could be, or what some minor tweaks to your kitchen could look like, new paint, feel free to reach out to us. We love having these conversations and showing people the potential in their properties. In the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate your time watching the video. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.